the Inside Digital Transformation podcast. Inside Digital Transformation explores how organizations of every size and shape are using technology today to survive and thrive in the face of relentless change. If you are a business or technology leader charged with making the most of digital transformation in your organization, then this podcast is for you. And now here's your host, Alan Bernard, a technology journalist, editor, and copywriter who has been covering the intersection of business and technology for over 2 decades.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. In this episode, I'm speaking with BMC Software CTO Ram Chakravarti about the changes IT organizations must undertake to successfully execute digital transformation today. Ram stresses the importance of collaboration between IT and the business, since successful business outcomes today are shared affairs. He also highlights the need for speed and agility to get new and improved products and services into the hands of customers faster, something all businesses depend on IT for their very survival. Ram, thank you. Appreciate your time for being on the show.
Alan, my pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you for having me here.
So, given that we're talking about how IT needs to change to support digital transformation today, I thought it'd probably be a good idea to get your definition of what digital transformation is.
So, Alan, I define a digital transformation as an enterprise-wide, multi-horizon program that helps an organization embrace digital technologies to transform its entire business. And it has a number of ingredients that it needs to address. Number one, and you always start with the customer, how do you transform the customer experience to enable digital engagements across the entire customer lifecycle? Number two, offering new digital products and or services that complement your traditional offerings. Number three, and this is not instead of, but this is also in addition to what I said as number two, which is how do you evolve your traditional offerings to add digital components? And the example here that I will use is using virtual assistants to enhance your call center capabilities. Number four, the evolution of the fundamental operating model of the organization to become a digital business. Number five, the accompanying business process automation and refinement, whether it's incremental or transformative. And the last, which is super important, is the organizational and the cultural shift required to make this successful.
So to evolve into an organization that can support your 5 points, which are pretty inclusive, right, and pretty far-reaching, how can, the average, not the 10%ers, because I think a lot of them are already there, how can the average IT shop change what they're doing, how they're thinking about it, how they approach IT in order to get their organizations into a position, right, to even deploy digital technologies in a way that will net the results, right, the business outcomes they're looking for? So go ahead.
Great question. Yep. Here's my view of the IT world and the shifts therein, right? Traditionally, IT was about cost and complexity management. Said otherwise, as you've paraphrased, availability and reliability while managing costs. That's how I look at it. So it was more the utility player role in many organizations, not to say every organization, but in many organizations. Mm-hmm. With the shift to with the shift that is mandated by tech transformation or digital transformations, it's really about being adaptive, being speedy, while continuing to be reliable. And the way we look at it in BMC is IT now has a dual role. You still need to run the business, which is about cost and complexity management or availability, reliability, and what have you. At the same time, you also need to help reinvent the business. For that, you need to basically have an ability and a mindset where you can move at the pace that is demanded of the business by the macro environment and the competition, and in turn by the business of IT in being an enabler of the speed of this transformation, albeit with the requisite reliability or the quality. And that includes speed of change, embracing new delivery disciplines, the continuous improvement mindset, engendering, when I say new delivery disciplines, it's agile at scale, DevOps at scale across the enterprise, to meet these at the same time, while you're ensuring that you're not increasing your risk by not keeping enough focus on running the business. So the run and the reinvent is a theme that we basically talk to about customers. How can you successfully run your business while reinventing it? The other thing that is important is it cannot be embracing technology for technology's sake. You've got to do it for each business initiative, finding the right horse for the right course. Those are some of the things that come to mind in terms of how IT needs to change. Talking about this is easy. Doing it is super hard, as both of us know. And but these are some of the ingredients that I can think of.
So actually, BMC, you're in a pretty unique position to understand what's going on out there, right? So why don't can you give me just a quick overview on what BMC does so the listeners have an idea of why you have the insights that you do?
What we offer in what we call IT infrastructure software management, operations management, service management, AI for IT operations, automation is a big part of what we do. We are the industry leader in or our top 3 player in pretty much everything that we have to offer.
Right. So you're helping IT automate, helping IT function better, streamline, IT service management. Those are so you're right in the middle of helping IT improve what it does, right? On a day-to-day basis. Okay. So that gives you the insights that you can share here, right?
Yep.
So you work with people in these answering these questions, I'm assuming, right? How do we change what we do internally to impact how we present ourselves externally to our customers to take advantage of some of the
Absolutely. No, that's at the heart of what we do. And the way we look at it is, Alan, we believe that every company is in various stages of their tech transformation or digital transformation journeys. And we actually define the destination or the North Star in this journey as the autonomous digital enterprise. And we recognize that customers are in various stages and they require multiple strategic partners in this journey. So our aspiration is really to be the strategic partner that enables connected operations across their hybrid IT landscape, across cloud, across mainframe, across on-prem, extending to the edge. And we call that our connected ops aspiration. And we understand that because they require multiple strategic partners, many of whom have one or more domains of expertise, much like we do, all of these need to come together, not so much as software vendors, but people that are part of an innovation ecosystem that is driving positive business outcomes for our customers. That's how we approach it. And that kind of gives us a good perspective in terms of we may not understand the nuances of your business. You are the domain experts for each of your business functions, but we understand that you need to change. And the change is not just about technology. We understand that it's an all-encompassing piece, but we are here for you to solve one big part of that jigsaw puzzle that you need to basically solve to get to your destination.
Right.
And that's our connected ops aspiration.
Digital transformation is not new. The term is I think it encompasses things that maybe it didn't in the past, like customer experience, for example, right? But, IT used to be all about internally focused initiatives, streamlining processes, business process optimization, right? So today it seems to me that IT needs to measure itself differently as far as its success in enabling digital transformation, right?
Absolutely.
And those measurements are outwardly focused. They're business outcomes. So how do you make that transition from an organization that was built to support the business function to one that is now in charge of helping it to help drive it, right? Grow it?
No, it's a great question. I mean, as you rightly observed, everything that an organization does, regardless of whether it's IT or HR or any other corporate function or a business unit, has to be tied to business outcomes. And I look at 3 macro outcomes or 4 macro outcomes, one of which is a little more less quantifiable. One is your customer experience. Second is your revenue uptick as a result of this. Third is cost/productivity gains. And the fourth I look at as risk mitigation, right? And each initiative that you have, whether it's in the run part of the business or the reinvent part of the business, has to be mapped to one or more of these business outcomes. So I look at IT managers as not needing to know just technology, but for them to be effective, they really need to understand what they're solving for in terms of these business outcomes. So each time when they go for a certain pool of funding as part of an annual budgeting exercise, I would humbly suggest that the initiatives that they want need to be pegged against one or more of these business outcomes. And to the extent that you can quantify them and monetize them, the better off your case is. What is the impact on productivity? What is the impact on cost? What is the impact on risk? So everything can be done in terms of business outcomes is where I would go.
Can you contrast an IT organization that does get it, what they do differently than those that are still kind of mired in the old way of thinking?
Okay. Navistar, who's one of BMC's customers, is a global trucks and parts manufacturer, right? And they embraced the shift to digital, and they had this on-command program that they launched where they embraced technology and technology shifts to deliver value to their customers. And the customers were twofold, trucking companies and service firms. So they were able to
service shops, basically,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
A really interesting case study. One of the things that they did was they put sensors in each of the 350,000 trucks or so, and they were able to get up to the minute information, vehicle utilized information, and a whole bunch of other things that they integrated then with their core systems that had the order information, the parts information, and their suppliers, the suppliers who would basically service vehicles, as well as the trucking companies. So for example, if something needed maintenance, they were able to, a particular truck on a road needed maintenance, they were able to look at the information, integrate, and advise them saying, hey, this needs servicing. These are the 3 dealers here, but 2 of them have these parts, and we would recommend this, that sort of thing. That's like compelling, right? You're actually using technology to drive business value and outcomes. Now, this is where automation comes in, right? This was the puzzle piece that helped them. I'm not saying this was the only thing, but this was the puzzle piece that helped them stitch together the various systems of record with the systems of with the edge systems, and integrate all of that to provide value in terms of the differentiated insights that they could get that would then drive business decisions for their customers to make.
Where do you think most IT shops are on this curve?
So I'll answer it this way, right? I think where they are can be directly correlated to the threat of digital disruption to their businesses. Let me explain it with an example, right? Yeah. Let's take the behemoth Amazon. And it's basically Circuit City and Radio Shack do not exist today for a certain reason.
Yeah, I remember.
Mostly Best Buy is still around, right? And Best Buy was able to adapt, and they embraced this, and they adopted digital as well as to complement their traditional, and they're still around. They may not be the force. I don't know if they're still the force that they were at some point in time.
I think they're doing just fine, is my understanding.
So, but the point I'm making is, that was a sector that was massively disrupted by digital giants. Yep. So it was either evolve or die. Best Buy did it, still around. Others did not. So it's a 2-part answer. One, the need to change is directly correlated to the threat of digital disruption. Number 2, the ability to change is what dictates, in the face of such a threat, is what dictates whether you are still going to be around and relevant and thriving, or whether your best days are behind you and you don't know it yet, or worst case scenario, you no longer exist as an enterprise. So I think there are organizations in every sector along different parts of that continuum. And it really depends on tying back to our first question or the second question. It's the adaptability and the agility, while engendering the requisite reliability and availability, are all the ingredients that need to be in place.
So, but where do you think, or do you think most IT people, most IT shops, because this is not new ground, but it's shifting so quickly, and it shifts continuously. Do they get this, or is there still a lot of order takers out there?
If you look around across companies, they get it to different, across companies, across sectors, they get it to different extents. And I'll answer it this way. IT's role was maybe a utility provider and order taker in the past.
Yeah.
What's IT's role today? And is the CIO and the CDO the same person?
Chief digital or chief
yes,
data?
digital. Yeah.
Data, yeah.
So if it's the same person, then IT's made the shift successfully. I would put money on that more often than not. If they're separate people, then IT is still being viewed as that utility player, while the chief digital officer is the one that is delivering against the digital business strategy and the imperatives therein.
Yeah, in my experience, and I interface with a lot of CIOs, most of them seem to get it, from what I can tell, but many are still mired with technical debt, for example, right?
Absolutely.
And their hands are kind of tied, but
Absolutely.
they're doing the best they can to move the organization forward with the tools that they have available.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the speed thing for a minute. The fail fast mindset. Well, there's two things, right? The project mindset versus a product mindset. That goes to, again, how you have to shift your thinking along the lines of order taker CIO to business driver, business leader CIO, I think, anyway.
Yes, I do.
So if you don't mind, kind of explain the difference between those two things and we'll go.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what are you known for? If you're an order taker or a utility provider CIO, you're in charge of cost and complexity management and mitigation, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're the business partner CIO, then you are at the forefront. You don't know, you may not be the best person that drives the business strategy, but you know how technology enables that business strategy, and you know how you need to pull that off in order to support that business outcome. It's the business orientation and being thought of as a valued partner, as opposed to just cost and complexity management persona. That's the difference. So let's just take a particular data and analytics use case, and we can use AI as one of the examples of something new that's come up. Yeah. The product mindset is where you have an integrated team, where the team has a business person as the product owner. You still have a digital officer, but the business person is a business product owner, and it's a fully integrated team that is working together to deliver that. The project mindset is where you have business that basically says, this is what I need, and then flips it over the wall, and you form an IT project team. You have some data engineers, you have some security people, you have others.
Business analysts.
Business analysts, you churn all that out, and then you take it over to them. That's the project. You deliver it as a project.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I forgot about the team approach, because that's also part of this whole, because, back to the top of the topic, which is how do you change as an IT organization to embrace digital transformation? That cross-functional team approach, I think, is maybe not new, but certainly much more relevant today than it has been in the past, correct?
Yes. The onus on collaboration is at a premium relative to what it was previously.
So how do you put that team together? Who's on that team? That again is going to be informed somewhat by the projects obviously involved, but how do you think about those teams and what their purpose is and how to make them work well?
Well, I think that starts with the agile and DevOps mindset, right? It's one team, and then the closer you are to the customer, the more business oriented you are. So you've got to, it's a shift left, the continuous shift left, incorporate customer input faster. All of those things come into play. And you've got to it cannot be an army of people. What is the absolute must-have set of resources? But the notion that I'm business, you're IT, or I'm on this side of the fence, you're on that side of the fence, all that has to go away. You've got to be thinking of, this is one team that's working towards delivering against a business outcome that's in support of an overarching vision and a business strategy.
And then I think one of the other important things that I've learned writing about this is you need to have that team enabled with decision makers.
Yeah.
You can't be having
and
people.
And you've got to empower them, right? It can't all be the executive. You put the person, the single accountable owner for that initiative as an empowered person.
So when they're doing the tabletop exercises, they can say go, no go on some of that stuff, and you can actually move forward as opposed to just paralysis by analysis.
Just the speed mandate.
Yeah, so there you go. So let's bring the speed thing back in. Yeah. So today there's always this imperative to fail fast, but there is a penalty oftentimes for being the first, just as there is for being the last. So how do you manage that continuum?
if you make a bad decision or have a bad output faster, the consequences could be worse. So I think you want to be pragmatic about it. You want to be tempered in how you roll it. Again, is it the right horse for the right course? The same principles come to mind. You don't want to wait too long. At the same time, you do not want to not have the sufficient guardrails in place before you deploy it to whoever your constituents are.
I think journalism might be a very good example where publishers just felt like they were moving their model online, and it wasn't. It was a totally different animal, and is to this day, right? And yet, so I don't know if being early there was an advantage or not, but being there at all didn't necessarily become an advantage. But now you have to be there, right? And so I don't know if there's a good comparison to modern technologies, but it seems to me that there's always a risk.
No, I mean, so I'll give you an example, right? People talk about predictive and preventive capabilities in my space, right?
Sure.
And prediction is doable with the AI and analytics methods. But in terms of, do you want it to be fully autonomous in prevention? I would advise caution. In certain cases, yes, it makes sense. But in certain others, you want to infuse that human touch. Because the AI method that has been used is being developed by the technical people, even if it's an integrated team, whatever, and it predicts something. The prediction basically is going to tell you, hey, this is going to impact, let's say as an example, this particular business service. At that point in time, you want the business person providing that business context. The service owner providing that context as to, this is a yellow flag that I may want to solve, but you're not doing this in an automated manner because it's going to disrupt my business, bring everything down when it's peak traffic. Just an example, right? So infusion of that human touch in that example is one of the guardrails that you could speak of. That would definitely be the case in some use cases for generative AI. There's a lot more that you could do with some level of automation, some filters, some rules that you put in place, a whole bunch of things, right? You have to look at the entire spectrum before you basically think about what you want to roll out.
All right. Well, Ram, thank you very much. I've enjoyed our conversation.
Likewise, immensely. I love these topics. So thank you for the stimulating conversation, Alan, and I'll be on the lookout for how this rolls out.
If you liked this episode, please tell your friends and check out our other shows. You can find Inside DT on all the major hosting platforms, including Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Google. Talk to you soon.